Okay, everyone, welcome back to Breslov Efrat here at Shira David. What a beautiful morning. We have the windows open. Nice, well, sort of a breeze. Some kind of air. Nice, but the beautiful, clean air. The clean, beautiful air of Eretz Yisrael. It's so beautiful to be here. Thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for this opportunity to be together, to learn Likutey Halachos, Baruch Hashem. We're learning Likutey Halachos, Hilchos Ha'idah, to give thanks to Hashem. It's so important to give thanks to Hashem. It's always so important to recognize Hashem in our lives and to recognize how Hashem is taking care of us. And He really is behind everything that goes on in our life. Right? Our parnasa, places, and everything. It's all Meis Hashem. It's all from Hashem. And yesterday we learned an amazing idea in Likutey Halachos. We learned this beautiful idea in 15 yesterday. We learned about Avraham Avinu, where Avraham HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Avraham Avinu, Lech lecha me'artzecha me'moladecha me'beis avicha el ha'oretz asher areka. So go out of your land. We said that's the land. The earth is the depression, right? And then we said me'moladecha. Well, you were born from the Tipa Srucha. Remember, like we said, yeah, and you don't have to be attached to all of that stuff, to the yalala, the cries and the scream and all it. Get out of that. Mibeis avicha, from all the things that the tendencies of your family that you think you have to be part of. Get out of that. But the most important thing we learned was that Hashem wasn't just talking to Avraham Avinu. He was talking to us. Every one of us. And we also have to go out of me'artzecha, me'moladecha, me'beis avicha, right? And we're supposed to go to el ha'oretz asher areka. It's time for everyone to make aliyah and come to Eretz Yisrael. It's Hashem talking to everybody. Yeah. But there are those that are stragglers that are hanging out, they're just holding on. And soon, it's not right, just right yet, not right yet. Yeah, okay. Hashem should put the minds and the thoughts and all the people that this is the time to just pack up and come to Eretz. So we all belong to be. Okay, and then today we're in Halacha Vav, and today we're up to Tazayin, which is 16. And we carry on now. We're going to move on. Here we go. V'zeu v'aviani amelech hadorov. This is beautiful. This is a pasuk from Shira Shirim Aleph, Perik Aleph, pasuk Daled. Hashem should bring me over to His Chadorov. Well, we're going to see Shenema Beis Hamikdash. That's the Beis Hamikdash. How do you like that? We're going to be starting the 3 weeks talking about Yonei Beis Hamikdash. Take us to your Beis Hamikdash. Nagila v'nismecha bach. Because in the Beis Hamikdash we're able to sing and be happy. What does it mean, Chadorov? Look what he says. Bechinas tesei cholen shezoichen ayedei nagila v'nismecha bach. You get it when it says Chadorov. Take you to the Chadorov, the rooms, whatever. What does he mean? The 9 rooms that we make via the elevation of the spheros and that collision with the Keter, we create the 9 rooms. So that's what he's referring to here. Haviani Amelech Chadorov. Chadorov is talking about the nine chambers. I like that. Isn't that nice? How do you get that? Nagila v'nismecha. If we're happy, with joy, if we do our mitzvahs with joy, we get the 9 room. V'zeh bechinas kodshei kodshim shehu kedusha asiris. And then you get to the Kodesh Kodashim, which is the 10th level of holiness. We know that the Eretz Yisrael there are 10 levels of holiness, and the 10th level of holiness in Eretz Yisrael is the Kodesh Kodashim, the Holy of Holies, that stood on the Even Shasiyah. Okay. The Even Shasiyah was very important. Why? Because that's the foundation rock of the world. the whole world evolved from the Evan Shazia. Right? Isn't that amazing to think of, right? And that's what we learned. Eretz Yisrael is very special. How so? In Eretz Yisrael, the whole world came from Eretz Yisrael. Everything started here. And that's why you find the beauty in the world is really the beauty of Eretz Yisrael, because it all came from Eretz Yisrael. Isn't that amazing? So the Swiss are so happy with their Alps. Yeah, that's great. They come from Eretz Yisrael. Everything comes from Eretz Yisrael. It stemmed from it. It evolved from Eretz Yisrael. So it means if this is where it came from, it means it's part of that. Right? 10th holy in the level of holiness is the Kodesh Kodashim. Shu, it's also Baal Yovai. I know on a regular person is not allowed to go into the Kodesh Kodashim. You can't go anytime you want. It's not a place you can come and take a stroll anytime you want in the Kodesh Kodashim. The Torah says to you, you can't do that. Bezois. Famous word, Bezois Yava Yaharon. B'yom Kippurim Daika, specifically on Yom Kippur. So on Yom Kippur, the Aaron HaKohen, he had to prepare, and we knew we did the avodah of Yom Kippur. It was a very, very intense avodah, very, very intense. And we read it on Yom Kippur too. We read the Seder avodah. I mean, even when we read it today, could you imagine doing? Actually, he did the avodah. It's long to read, and just imagine he did the. Then he changed. He put on his the big day the big day lavan. He put on his white garments. He took off the gold. He took off the shmeini begadim. He put on the arba begadim. He had the 4 garments because he didn't want to go into the Kodesh Kodashim wearing the gold to remind HaKadosh Baruch Hu of the sin of the golden calf, right? And he went in there with the Ketores, specifically with the Ketores. That's what he went into the Kodesh Kodashim with. Ki ha'eichel u kedusha atishis, because the heichel, the inside, the kodesh, is the 9th level of holiness, where the menorah stood, where the mizbeach apnimi stood, where the shulchan stood. That's the kodesh, right? That's the heichel. Hu kedusha atishis. Kisham nichlolin atesei cholin, because in there you have all the 9 rooms. That's why it's the 9th level of holiness. As you create 9 levels of holiness via rising up, right? You get 9 levels of holiness, 9 levels of heicholin, right? The heicholin, the chambers, right? That are filled with the infinite light, the Or Ein Sof of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And it comes and imbues the person with that light. But that light's referring to the Kodesh. Why? Because in the Kodesh was the 9th level of holiness. It's also, everything is so beautifully calculated. There are 9 Eicholim, right? There are 9. You get 9, right? Because there's 3 sets of 3. 3 sets of 3 gives you 9, right? And in the ninth level is the Kodesh. You can't go past that unless you make the tikkun of the keter. The keter, we said, is the 10th. That's what helps settle and arrange the mind. This is the idea of Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is the whole idea is the tikkun of keter, the whole idea the tikkun of the crown. And therefore the kohen that went into the kodesh, he was able to go into the kodesh, the regular kohen, and he was able to light them. He was able to do them in the service, different services, change the bread on the shulchan. He was able to do, but he couldn't go further. He couldn't go further. Lahasik shamashe hisig b'makim ha'aron v'akruvim kiyim ha'koyin gadol b'yom kippur. But to go where the aron is and the kruvim, only the koyin gadol can go to that place. Specifically with the ketaris. He couldn't just go in there empty-handed. He had to go in there with the ketaris. That's what the Torah tells us. That's what Aaron did. Why? Because we said the ketaris bring simcha. Through simcha, he can go to the tent. He can get into the tent because he has joy. So he can go into the tent on Yom Kippur. K'dei l'taken ayidei kol zeh haketer mibechinas hamesada miyashev shos daike yizke lahasig orein seif. Then he can attain more infinite light through this joy. And anytime you want to experience anything of holiness, the best way to do it, pretty much the only way, is through joy. Through joy. The Nevi'im had to be in a state of joy when they got their Nevuah. The Navi had to be in a state of joy. He couldn't get his Nevuah. He can't connect. Joy is what connects us to holiness. You understand? If you want to connect to holiness, you have to have joy. Right? If you want to feel holiness, you need to have joy. And even it says now, it's going to start the 3 weeks. It says, Mishenichnas of mematim b'simcha. Right? Shulchan Aruch says, when Av comes in, mematim b'simcha. Tone it down a little bit. It doesn't say, asa liot b'simcha. Right? The Shulchan Aruch does not say it's forbidden to be happy. It says, mematim b'simcha. Tone it down just a little bit. You have to still have joy. But one notch down. Go down one notch. But still, you have to be in a level of joy. Ad kidei kach, the Reb Nosson writes that even when you're on Yom, when it's Tisha B'Av itself, you have to have a level of joy too. And they say, well, how? I have to be very sad. It's a sad. Yes, but you're sad, but you also have to have a sense of joy with you too. Because if you're only going to be sad, you're attached to the Sitra Achra. If you want to stay and you want your sadness to be a sadness of holiness, you have to have joy in there also. And that's the way a Jew can have both together. Only a Jew can go one moment, he can be at a levaya, and the next moment he can be at a chasna. Right? Only a Jew can do that. Right? Lo yaleinu. This happened. We have many stories like that. People, they buried somebody, and then 2-3 hours later, they're by a wedding, they're dancing. How do you do that? How do you do that? Because even the levaya, there's a sense of joy. Why we learned Misa is Toiv was life. Ma'od is Misa. Right? Death. That's Toiv Ma'od. Ma'od was Nisa. So when a person goes even to a levaya, we say that's a good thing. Why? Because the body is put into the ground. And then the body can become one with the earth again. And then in Mitzvah Hashem, there's going to be Tchias HaMesim. And then the body is going to resurrect. But it's going to resurrect without the impurity of the Nachash HaKadmoni that was placed into Chava. Amazing. Right? So that you have to remember that everything is accomplished through joy. And if you have joy, you're connected to Kedusha. If a person's only Ba'atzvas, he's connected to the other side. Do we understand that? It's a pretty interesting concept, right? It's very different than most people will tell you. Most rabbis, we can have an argument and we'll tell you that no, you have to be sad on Yom Kippur, on Tisha B'Av, right? You have to be very sad. You have to be sad, but you have to be happy at the same time. Okay. And this was the problem of Nadav and Avihu. Nadav and Avihu were the children of Aaron. It's connected to the parsha too, right? This week's parsha, Pinchas. So Aaron had 4 sons, right? He had Nadav and Avihu, and he had Elazar v'Isamar. Those were his 4 sons he had. And only they became the Kahana. Aaron and his 4 children, They became, when the kahuna was established, only they were kahanim. If any of his 4 children had children after they became kahanim, so then those children would be a kohen as well. But if there was a child that was born before that, the kahuna did not extend to those children. Do you follow? The line stopped at his children, not grandchildren. Pinchas was already born before the kahuna. So he missed the cut. But he got his kahuna back again this week. Right? He got the kahuna, even though he was not a kohen. Because some people try to understand, well, I don't understand. If he's from a Haran, a kohen, if he stems back, why isn't he a kohen? Because the kahuna stopped right there at the children. So Nadav and Avihu were great. Yeah. I don't know if he's the only one. That I don't know. But he was definitely, that's why he wasn't a kohen. I don't know if he was the only one, but I know for sure that's what he was. It wasn't a kohen. Because he was born before the kahuna was established. The Nadav and Avihu were great people, and we studied about them. And there's many reasons, there's many opinions as what happened with Nadav and Avihu. But the greatest one was that we learned from Rav Nosson, and we'll see it again. But the greatest one was that Nadav and Avihu, they weren't married. They were on such a high level. They didn't want to be involved in marriage. They thought they can get closer to Hashem without marriage. And that's a big mistake. It's a very big mistake. Why? Because women in general are very what's the right word to use? They're not as joyous as a man in general. Okay? I want to be careful the words I say. Okay? And through marriage, a husband can bring joy to his wife. Right? Like we said yesterday, we learned yesterday, that if a person doesn't have children, be misameach the wife, and then you'll be able to have children. The reason why they're not having children is because they're not bringing joy to the wife. The wife is involved in the yalala, wailing, crying. But if you bring joy, so Nadav and Avihu didn't bring joy to a lady. You understand? They thought that they were higher than that. They were amazing tzaddikim. They were awesome tzaddikim. B'kirvasam l'fnei Hashem v'yamusu. And we know they died on the day of the inauguration of the Mishkan. Could you imagine that? Right? It was Chodesh Nisan. We just finished the Mishkan. Moshe Rabbeinu finished the Zayim Yemei Miluyim. He erected the Mishkan. He took it down. He did the whole avodah in the Mishkan, everything. And now it was the day that the Mishkan was going to be inaugurated officially. And on that day, Nadav and Avihu died. They got carried away. They got swept away in the kedusha. They got swept away in the kedusha. In other words, again, we learned you do it with joy, then you get to the keter and it pushes you back. But they were just so involved in the joy, they were just involved in the kedusha, but they didn't have the joy of the wife. You understand? They didn't have that joy because they were misameach somebody else. So therefore, they didn't get to this thing with the simcha to get to the keter to push them back. So therefore, they went too far. It didn't work out too good for them. Ki nichnasu b'loi tikun amisader. Because they came in and they went further than they should without the tikkun of the Mesader. They didn't settle their mind. Their mind was racing with the Kedusha. It's no good. You have to always have that seder, the mind has to be miyashev and misader, miyashev. The mind needs to always be settled. It has to be arranged, organized. Because that's the idea, it had too much light. In other words, if you take too much light in, the same way we know, if you, let's say you're driving the car, right? And then you come right in the ray of the sun. So now you can't see. Well, why can't you see? There's so much light. Oh, there's too much light. Too much light is blinding, right? Too much light is blinding. If you have just enough light, it's good. You can see, it's great. But if you see the light's too bright, you can't see anything. That's what happened over here. When you don't have this, the tikkun of the mind, the mind is not miyashiv, the mind is not misader. So then what happens is the mind just accepts too much light. And then when it accepts too much light, the same way you can't see when there's too much light, the mind can't process anything because there's too much light. That's why it's so important. It's integral. They came too close. No, the keter pushes you back. Hamtana, right? It pushes you back. You can't go. It bangs, it pushes the person back. For the person's good, for the benefit. It's not that keter is not pushing the person back because it's cruel. It wants to push you back. No, the keter is doing that for the person's benefit. So that way the person can have yishuv hadas. His mind can be miyashiv. He can have yishuv hadas. We learned you have to have das. Yishuv hadas, right? You understand? Yishuv hadas and seder in the mind. Shezeh bechinas pen yehersu. La'alo yisel Hashem. This also was by Kabbalah Satayr, right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Moshe Rabbeinu, Hagbel esahar, right? The people have to be Hagbel esahar, Gvul, right? Like the word Gvul, boundary, border, right? Gvul, right? What does that mean? Because the mountain was going to be full of holiness. And if they go past this space, this Gvul, they go in there, they'll go too far. And again, they'll get too much light, and then people can go crazy. The same is there was Arba Nichnis Lepardes, you had Rabbi Akiva, Ben Zoyma, Elisha Ben Avui, right? We learned, and the thing they went, only Rabbi Akiva was able to go in and Yotza B'Sholem. Only he could do that, because he understood this concept. You have to stay straight. You can't go looking at things you shouldn't. You have to stay straight, and then you can be successful. Pen yehersu la'alo yisel Hashem, because maybe they're going to get overwhelmed. They're going to get so involved in the kedusha. You understand? This is what happened with Nadav and Avihu. It was the same idea. There was so much kedusha, they got so involved in it, they just wanted to get closer to it. But you can't. You can't. You want to get closer, but you can't. You could use the example for electricity, right? Right? You can use the example for electricity, right? You have electricity. So electricity is great, right? You can plug in the iPad so Mordechai can be at the class. It's great, right? Using electricity, right? And we have lighting, and sometimes you put on the air conditioner. Everything works with electricity. But you can't, I can't say, there's a transformer, and the electric is great, so I'm going to plug my machine into the transformer. It'll blow up, right? It's not going to work. Too much power. AC, DC, right? AC, DC current, right? In other words, you have direct current, you have alternating current, right? You can't plug something that's using this alternating current into the direct current. It'll blow it up. Too much power. Oh, but if you have it with a gvul, right? If you have the right measure, if you have the right measure, so then it's not a problem. Why? Because then, if you have the right measure, you can benefit by it. The same way with the mind. If the mind has too much light in it, you can't think. There's no yishuv hadas. But if you have just the right amount of knowledge, the right amount, and it's organized, so then the mind can think healthy. It's a very healthy good process, and you can advance. So these are the two examples we're giving here. Haviani Amelech Chadora to the Beis Hamikdash, right? Chadora. What's the Chadora we said? That's the Beis Hamikdash. Specifically Chadarav, that's the ninth, the Heichel. The Heichel is the ninth chamber. The ninth chamber is also connected to the 9 Heichalim that we create via doing the mitzvah with Simcha. Right? And then we said you have to always be miyashev, the mind. How do you do that? By doing the mitzvah with Simcha, you get that crash with the keter. It pushes the person back to Hamtana. And that's how the two examples we had was Nadam and Avihu and Pen Yehersu. Maybe you're going to want to pass the border. Maybe you're going to want to pass and go to the mountain too much, but that'll be too much light. So therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Pen Yehersu, don't go fast past the Gvul. Stay within the Gvul. Do we understand this concept? It's an amazing concept to understand the psychology of how important it is to do a mitzvah b'simcha, but to know you have to stay within your confines. You can't exceed, you can't go further than the level that you're on. You can go a little bit, but you can't try to go too fast, because if you go too fast, you're going to fall. Vayin behilchas period ribi halacha dalid Emetz Hashem. We'll get to that hilchas ishis. We'll get to that Emetz Hashem. Rav Nassan will discuss this again all through Likutey halachas. Rav Nassan will be discussing this idea of simcha. All through, he's going to always bring the idea of simcha, because this is one of the main teachings in all of Breslov. To understand, to be a person needs to be besimcha. Al pi ha-Torah zois ayin sham v'ayin lekamen mizeh. Also from we learned in lesson 24, 8, in the lesson 24, v'inyan ha-paroiches ha-mavdila, and then there was also the paroches in the base in the Mishkan, and then in the base of this were paroches. There was a curtain. There was a curtain, and what was the curtain there? The curtain was there to divide the Kodesh and the Kodesh Kadashim. Right? You know, so it was a curtain. The holy, the Aron and the Kruvim and the Kaparis, the Aron, the cover for the Aron and the Kruvim stood in the Kodesh Kadashim. And there was a paroches, a curtain that divided it from the Kodesh. Right? So you were in the Kodesh. In the Kodesh you had the Mizbeach Hazov, you had the Menorah, and you had the Shulchan. And what was dividing it from the Aron, the Kaparis, and the Kruvim? The Paroches, right? Says this is the idea of the prisa, the thing that stops, the idea to have the koyach to be mesadeh meyashiv the mind. In other words, you don't go past that. You get to the curtain, it pushes you back. No, I can't go there. Pushes you back. The same as the keter, because that's the 10th. You have the 9, but the 10th, it gets to the keter, it pushes you back. In other words, all for our benefit to be miyashiv our minds. And that's the whole point in we're doing this. All of this is for our good, so that way we can have a healthy mind, and we can have a mind, and we can be connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu all the time, no matter what's going on in our lives. We're learning a way that no matter how difficult and how daunting our day may seem, it doesn't matter. We can always connect to Hashem with joy. And if we stay in a level of joy, everything works out. Because then you realize, wow, Hashem, you organized this whole thing. I didn't figure this out. I didn't figure out what's going to happen today. You figured out exactly what I need to do today. So he turned to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yes, Hashem, please. I got all these things to do. I don't know how to do it. I don't know. Hashem, please guide me here. I don't know what to do. Please, Hashem, help me. Guide me on how to get this done, and let me do the job correctly. You understand? That's what we're learning here. Any questions on this? Does anyone have any questions? It's a very beautiful concept. Any comments? Any questions? No comments, no questions. Okay. Wow. You guys must be very smart, because it couldn't be that I explained it well. You guys must be very smart, very good. Okay, Baruch Hashem. Haidul Hashem ki tov, ki li'olam chasdei. Okay, now let's go on to Yud Zayin, okay? So yesterday we spoke about Avraham Avinu and the greatness of Avraham Avinu, like we started the class today. How HaKadosh Baruch Hu is really talking to every one of us, and telling every one of us we have to just get out of all of the things that are holding us back. Just get out of all of that stuff. Just get out of it. You don't need it. That's all in the past. You got to move forward. We live in the present and the future. The past is the past. Doesn't matter. I have now. What can I do? What can I accomplish right now? That's what I always. That's the mind frame that we always have to be in. V'alkein ha'ilada rishayna shel kedushas Yisrael noldim ba'olam nikra Yitzchak. Who was the first person to be born with the holiness as a holy birth? That was Yitzchak Avinu. He was the first one. As great as Avraham Avinu was, his parents were terach. His father was terach. He was an idol wholesaler. I don't know how holy he was. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how much simcha he had. I don't think so, right? Because the avodah brings to the atzvos, right? But Avram Avinu, as we learned yesterday, his name was Avram. And we said Avram is the neshama, right? Avram's neshama. But his neshama, Avram, could not have children. He saw in the mazlas, he saw in the constellations. He was able to see that. He was able to understand that. And he saw that he's not going to have children. So Hashem said, I'm going to give you the hay. Right? I'm going to give you the hay. And Sarai's name was Sarai. But Hashem changed her name to Sarah. Because Avram and Sarai were not going to have children. Ad kedei kach that Sarai didn't even have, she didn't have a rechem. She didn't have the whole, the uterus. She didn't have all the kalim that the women need to have. She didn't have the whole, any of the feminine organs. She didn't have them. Sarai didn't have them. How you have a child? Right? You need to have, right? And that was amazing that when the Malach, we learned, if you remember back there, we learned that when the Malachim came to Avraham Avinu, it was the third day of his Milah, remember? It was the third day of his Milah. And the Malach said that Sarah is going to have a baby. And then she laughed. Bikirba, something, she said she laughed. We know why she laughed? Because she felt the Dam Nida. She felt a period. She never felt that in her life. She never felt that. She didn't have the organs to have a period. She didn't have her menstrual cycle. She didn't have any organs to have the menstrual cycle. She said she's going to have a child, so she laughed. Wow, look how old I am. I'm 90 years. Wow. You understand? That's why she laughed. And then, of course, mikveh and the whole thing, and she had the child. Again, she was the baby. Yitzchak was born with kedusha. That's amazing. The mamash, an amazing thing. Nobody was born before that with kedusha. Yitzchak's the first one. Shua Rishon shenoiled b'kedusha me Avram v'Sarah. Avraham and Sarah. Hashem gave Avram the hay. Remember the hay? We said the hay is connected to simcha, right? Sarah also the simcha. Avraham Avinu was able to be misameach Sarah, and therefore they were able to have the child. V'alkei nikra Yitzchak. That's why his name is called Yitzchak, from the shirish of tzchok. What is tzchok? Laugh, laughter. It's a strange name for Yitzchak, right? Strange name. Why are you calling him Yitzchak? He's the midah of gevura. Din. Hey, at judgment, people don't laugh at judgment, right? Yitzchak laughs at judgment. Why? Because Yitzchak, we learned in Hilchas Tefillin, Rabbeinu Tam, that Yitzchak can look at the din. He looks at the din, but he looks past the din. See, the problem is we have a problem in our life and we stop at the problem. We don't look past the problem. We don't look past the problem. Why did Hashem send me this situation? Why is this thing that Hashem sent me? Why did He send me this thing? And then if you realize, and we think what the Chazal tell us, Kol ma David Rachman l'tav Ovid, everything that Hashem does, He does for our ultimate good. So then you could start to laugh. And whatever the problem is, you could start to laugh at the problem. Doesn't matter. Why? Because you realize it all came from Hashem. And that's what Yitzchak is doing. Yitzchak sees everything that happens in his life. And Yitzchak's always laughing. But he's din. How can he laugh? He knows everything Hashem, the din is really chesed. All the din that Hashem does is really chesed. Right? Simcha, you were a dentist, right? So you had to sometimes drill into someone's tooth, right? And all of that stuff, right? But in all the years, did anyone ever punch you in the nose because you were drilling in their teeth?
No, thank God.
Thank God they didn't, right? They didn't, right? So why? This idea. Yeah. They understood they were of Simcha, and that's why his name is Simcha. You see that? They know that what he's doing is really for their good.
Right.
I have this big pain. Oh, this man now is taking his drill and they're making that horrible sound. This is that terrible sound of the drill, right? Right? And then it feels terrible in the mouth. Everything feels, it hurts, and all of that, right? Even if you gave the anesthetic, right? But you still feel it.
Yeah,
you feel the pressure. You feel something, right? But you can endure it. Why? Because you know, oh, in another 2-3 hours after we're done, I'll have menucha, right? I'll have tranquility. I won't have that nagging pain of the toothache. But that's the whole idea of Yitzchak, right? You can approach life the way Yitzchak approaches life. Approach life, realize that the din is really chesed. Again, why did I use the thing with the dentist? Because the drilling is din. But what the whole purpose why he's drilling is not because he wants to practice his drilling practice. It is not. No, he's doing that for a purpose to help the person. The person needs help. So sometimes to get the help, you need to go through something of din. You understand? That's Yitzchak. Al Shem Simcha. Yitzchak is from Simcha, tzchoik, laughter, joy. K'may shekosov. Tzchoik asa li'elekim. Sorry, Meinu said, Tzchoik asa li'elekim. Hashem made me a laughter. Tzchoik. That was the laughter. She felt the menstrual cycle. How can a 90-year-old lady have a menstrual cycle? Doesn't make sense. But that's why she laughed. Tzchoik asa li'elekim. And look, she says elekim from the side of din. That's the whole point of the Kedusha of Yisrael is Simcha's joy. Malkein loy noilad ad shetitnis gadel shem Avraham. And therefore Yitzchak couldn't be born until Avram's name became Avraham with the hay. Visara. Sarai, her name was Sarai, became Sarah with the hay. Bechinas hay koilos shal simchas chasen mekala, like we learned yesterday. The 5 blessings that the person gets when you're at a chasna and you mesameach the chasen and kala, you get 5 blessings. Isn't that beautiful? Sheikaram hu kol oimrim Haidu es Hashem shu toide vaydal Hashem yisbarach b'simcha. And the main thing is to always give Haidu Hashem ki tov ki li'olam chazdai. And you have to say that all the time, b'simcha. And that's connected to the carbon toda that we learned, that we bring the 4 different types of bread. And we brought 10 of each one of the breads. And even in the carbon toda, we brought the chametz. That was a unique thing. We never brought chametz to the Beis Hamikdash, but with that we did, because we were able to recognize that all the chametz is really something of holiness if I know how to deal with it. And that's where the main haylada for Yisrael came from, And that's such an amazing thing here what we're learning. I think this is something so beautiful. We should talk about it just for a couple of minutes to realize the value of simcha, right?
Well, it says right here, it says the essence of Jewish holiness
is joy.
Simcha.
It's joy.
It's simcha. Yeah.
In other words, if you want to be attached to holiness, you have to be filled of joy. If you want to connect to holiness, you need joy. And again, we said it from the Arizal, the holy Arizal. The contributions he made to Klal Yisrael are immeasurable. There's no way to measure what the Arizal gave to us. And the Arizal was a young man when he passed away. But he said, my whole tafkid in life was to come into the world to teach Reb Chaim Vital. That's what he said. My whole purpose here was to give over the teachings to Reb Chaim Vital. Now you have to understand something. Reb Chaim Vital at the time was a man in his 70s. The Arizal was 36, 37 years old. That's all he was. But what did the Arizal, what did he accomplish? How did he accomplish what he accomplished? He said, I learned how to do a mitzvah with joy. And via doing the mitzvah with joy, he constantly got imbued with the Or Ein Sof. You understand that? You understand that? Every time, if you want, we think there's the Or Ein Sof, the infinite light of Hashem, has nothing to do with me. What does that have to do with me? It has a lot to do with you. If you want to be filled with the light of Hashem, and you want to be filled with the motivation to serve Hashem, and you want to feel the closeness to Hashem, the only way you can do that is with joy. A person can't feel close to Hashem but atzvos. If you want, you know what you feel when you're atzvos, when a person is in a state of depression, he's close to the Sitra Achra. He thinks he'll be holy. He thinks so. Not going to be holy. Not going to be holy. Okay, so anyway, we learned many different ideas here about Simcha. Many ideas. And even we're starting the 3 weeks. To understand that the whole avodah of the 3 weeks, it's a serious time. But I can be serious and be full of joy at the same time. It's not a stira. It's not a tata desasra. I'm not doing it can be done. It can be done if we think about it. But again, we learned all of these lessons only can affect the person if he's mizbaineh. Right? And we have to say that again and again. Unless you take these lessons and you're mizbaineh and you think them through and you internalize the lesson, then the lesson can affect you. And then you can feel the joy. And then you can experience the joy. You can understand the joy. You can understand the orange side. But if you don't internalize it, you're not mizbaineh, then it goes in one ear, it goes right out the other. And it doesn't affect the person. So that's the...
What lesson is this?
What?
What lesson is this in the Likutey?
24, the lesson we learned last week.
Okay.
Before you moved, remember?
No.
Okay, I know so many things happen, right? So many things happen, right, Mordechai?
Oh, yeah.
Unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, does anyone have any questions that we want to discuss anything about these ideas? Does anyone have any problems with any of the things we said?
I have something that's on my mind.
What's on your mind?
That
Okay.
I'm not sure how it's related, but it has to do with the Adam and Eve.
Okay.
So we say that, the woman is supposed to help us grow. Yes?
The Torah says an Isha is an Ezer Kenegdo. Ezer Kenegdo. What does it mean? A woman can either be an Ezer, an assistant, and it can help a person, or the lady can be a Kenegdo. The lady will go against you. Chas v'shalom, not you. Against any person. The lady will go against them. It depends how you deal with the person. if you deal with your wife in a way that you're being misameach your wife, so then she'll be the ezer. But if you don't do that and you try to find all the faults, oh, you burnt my dinner again. Oh, and I didn't get this, and then this isn't clean, and I wanted my shirt ironed. I want this, I want that, I want this and that and the other thing. So then the lady's going to be a kenegdo, right?
Well, what was Eve to Adam when the snake and all that happened?
Oh, so Chava was connected to the Nachash, right? This Nachash, we said, is the Sitra Achra, right? He's the Satan, the Malach HaMavis. He's the bad guy, right? The Nachash is connected to the bad guy, right? The bad, all the bad of the world, right? So the problem was that she connected herself to the Nachash, which is the opposite of joy.
Right. That's what.
And when a person is connecting themselves to depression, like Rabbi Nachman says, what's the greatest mitzvah that's not a mitzvah? And what's the greatest aveira that's not an aveira? Well, the greatest mitzvah that's not a mitzvah is to be happy. But the greatest aveira that's not an aveira by itself is to be ba'atzuf, to be depressed. Because if we're depressed, why is it the greatest aveira? Because it'll lead the person to all the aveiros. And why is simcha the greatest mitzvah that's not a mitzvah itself? Because simcha will lead the person to all mitzvahs. You understand? So the fact that she connected to the Nachash, she connected to the Atzvut. And because she was depressed, she was able to be convinced to eat from the tree, which was the only negative commandment Hashem gave. They had one negative commandment. Then a positive commandment, eat from all the trees, and don't eat from this tree. Positive commandment and a negative commandment. They didn't fulfill the positive command because they didn't eat from the other trees, but they only ate from that tree. Why? She took the counsel of the Nachash. Make sense?
No, Adam could not have influenced her because she was connected to Sitra Achra.
She connected herself to the Atzvut. And Adam, listen, he didn't have experience. He was just created. He didn't have the experience yet, We have the benefit, like the Monday morning quarterback, they say, right? There's such a thing in football, you say the Monday morning quarterback? You never heard that? In other words, on Sunday they're playing the game. And then Monday they tell you all the things he could have done, what he could have done, what he should have done. He could have done this, he could have done that, he could have done this, and he would have been successful. So we're the Monday morning quarterback, right? We weren't there.
I guess I'm wondering what knowledge did Adam have at the time that he was created?
Well, he knew that he was created by God only 6 hours before.
It seems like he could give names to all the animals and he could read who they were.
Yeah. He saw that. He saw. We learned that yesterday. He saw nefesh who Hashem who nefesh achai. Right? We said that the name is in the nefesh, and he saw the makeup of what made the name, of what made that animal, and then he knew the name. Yeah. He was great. He was great. And listen, and we said that the most important thing to understand is even though Adam and Chava failed, the biggest problem that they did was not that they failed, but they didn't own up to their mistake. That was the biggest problem that they had. When Hashem asked Adam, what happened? Well, Hashem, you gave me this wife. Look what she made me do. He passed the buck off to the wife, right?
They didn't have joy.
He didn't say he's sorry.
No, I know he didn't say.
He didn't own up to it. There are so many people like that. No matter what happens, they'll never say, I made a mistake. You ever meet people like that? I meet people like that. I can't believe it. They'll never say, I made a mistake. No, it's this one's fault. It's not me. You ever meet people like that? They're not big enough to own up to their mistake. They'll just have to pawn it off on somebody else. You want to say something, David?
Yeah, but I'll say off the tape.
Okay. Okay. You can. Okay. It's a very, very important thing to understand that anytime we do something wrong, own up to it. Own up to your mistake. Say you're sorry. And that's what Adam and Chava could have done. Okay? Yeah. All right, so I think that's our lesson for today. Remember, there's great value to do a mitzvah with joy. Please understand that tomorrow we're going to do 18. We're going to learn about the battle between Yaakov and Esau. Okay? Yeah, it's going to be it's a Lebedika lesson. Okay. Okay, let's learn the halacha in Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. I think we're up to Yud Aleph today, right? 11? Okay. Okay, here we go. Okay, so for everyone that's following along inside, Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, our wonderful project that we started, thank you Hashem, right? We're in Siman Mem 40, and today we're up to Yud Aleph 11, okay? So you can find it inside. So we're learning all the different ideas of washing our hands to have bread, to have a meal. Here we go. Yud Aleph. Koydem anetila tzrichen lashkiach al yadayim shehei nikiyos b'li shum chatzitza. Before you wash your hands, make sure your hands are clean and they don't have any kind of chatzitza on them. What does it mean, a chatzitza on them? I'll give you an example. Let's say a person was working with plaster. Whatever, just give it a silly thing, right? It's working with plaster. And he wants to eat his sandwich. It's lunchtime, right? Practical thing, right? The guy is working, he's a kablan, whatever he's doing, he's working. He has plaster on his hand. Well, no, you have to first scrape off the plaster before you wash your hands. Why? Because if you have the plaster on your hands, it's going to be a chatzitza. The water can't get it. We said that for it to qualify as a hand washing, the water has to cover the entire hand, from the wrist to the last finger, right? The entire hand. And if somebody likes to have longer nails, tit mishum dahave chatzitza. How do you like that? Look at this one. And this is a practical thing, right? If somebody has longer nails, so sometimes you're working, whatever it is, and the little dirt gets underneath the nails. If you're going to wash your hands, under your nail is your finger. So that has to have water. But if there's dirt there, then that's a chatzitza from your skin. Because the water can't get there because it's a chatzitza. V'chein tzarich lahasir tabot sheloi tiyeh chatzitza. And if a person wears rings, some of course the ladies wear their rings, right? So they have to take off their rings because again, if the ring is on the finger, it can't cover the part where the ring is. So that'll be considered also chatzitza. Okay, and so now we learned the ideas that whenever you wash your hands, the entire water has to cover the water has to cover the entire hand, without any chatzitza, without any how do you say chatzitza in English? Obstruction. That's the right word.
I'm not sure.
Shalom, you have a good word for chatzitza? Blocking. Okay, whatever, we understand. Chatzitza, you can't have something. What?
A barrier.
Barrier. Oh, there we go. That's the word. That's a good one. No barrier. Okay. Thank you. See that? No barrier. You can't have a barrier on your hand. You have to have the water cover it. Okay, so that's our lesson for today, everyone. Everyone should have a wonderful day, and we should all hear Besora Tovot, and thank you for joining Kol Tuv.